Hello friends, Mrs. Hawk here again. I'm excited to share another read aloud with you. This book is new to me this year and I was excited to read it. This is a book called 50 Cents and a Dream, young Booker T. Washington. So I had a lot of wonderings starting when I looked at this book. First of all, to see what could happen with just 50 cents in a dream, because 50 cents is not very much money, as you guys know, not a lot of things you can get with that. And I had to use a little bit of my background knowledge to just think about what I already knew about Booker T. Washington. My background knowledge, I knew he was a famous African-American in United States history, and that he had been a slave and was a founder of a big university in the United States. But that's kind of all I knew about Booker T. Washington. And so when I got this, I thought, oh, this is perfect. It goes with our theme this week. And I'm excited for you to hear about a really influential person from United States history who maybe you don't know very much about, because I didn't either. So as you listen to this story today, I want you to really think about how does it relate to our other books this week, the theme that we're working on. And what do you think is something that we can learn from the story of Booker T. Washington? Many of our stories this week were fiction, and this story is nonfiction based on true events, but still has a very similar message or theme as our other stories this week. So this is 50 Cents in a Dream by Jabari Asim and illustrated by Brian Collier. I don't know if you can see, the illustration is really cool on the cover. There's a whole bunch of words in cursive across the whole illustration. And so I'm excited to see what that's about as we go. Okay, here we go, my friends. Like any boy, Booker longed to play, run, and jump beneath the blue skies and bright sun. Most of all, he longed to learn. Booker dreamed of making friends with words, setting free the secrets that lived in books. This is a really neat illustration. I really enjoy these illustrations, and I really like that phrase of making friends with words. I don't know if I've ever thought about reading that way, being friends with words, and the secrets that live in books. That just excites me as a reader to think about how much he wants to know about reading. The strange marks marched and danced across the page, making him smile and laugh with joy. But slaves like him were not allowed to read. A black boy caught with a book could be whipped or worse. Can you imagine, friends, not being allowed to read? All we want to do is teach you to read, right? And to be whipped or worse for being caught with a book. It's unbelievable to me that happened. When he walked his master's daughter to school, he carried her books, and his fingers would linger on each of the covers. He could feel magic seeping into his hands. Can you see he's walking there? He's walking this girl to school, and she looks free maybe in some other ways of just like in her head, but he is really interested in those books. I love it that he could feel magic from the books. What a cool way to think about reading. Inside, the girl read along with her classmates. A, an apple. B, a bird. Booker stayed outdoors in the Virginia heat, beneath the blue skies and bright sun, staring through the window. He listened and dreamed. Can you see now? What do you notice? All of the children inside are white, and Booker is kept outside because he is black and a slave and not allowed to come in and learn to read. And you can see the kids working on, they used to call them, that was like a slate, like what you guys use for your whiteboards now. When freedom came, life was still hard. Booker's family moved from Virginia to West Virginia. He and his brother joined their stepfather in working at a salt furnace. I don't actually know what a salt furnace is. Maybe it makes salt? Deep in the Kanawha Valley, he shoveled, hauled, and packed. Later, at a coal mine in Malden, miners and machines drilled thousands of feet into the earth to reach the coal. It was hot, dangerous work for grown men, and even more so for boys like Booker. He had never seen such darkness. Oh, That's amazing. And look, I don't know how young he is here, right? He still looks really young and having to work in a coal mine and a salt furnace. That sounds like really hard, dangerous work. One day his mother had a surprise, a spelling book just for him. Booker went to work on his ABCs, tracing the strange marks as they danced across the page. Soon they began to make sense. A, an apple, B, a bird. At last he could read. Now, I don't know if you guys remember learning really those marks. Maybe if you're one of our kindergartners or first graders, you're just learning those marks of how to write the letters. If you're an older student, I don't know, do you remember really learning to read? I don't really remember those times, but I'm a lot older than you. And I think that it's exciting that the surprise for him was a spelling book. I think that's really cool. When a young man from Ohio came to town, word of the wondrous stranger spread quickly from cabin to cabin. A colored man who could read. Folks loved to gather round after work and listen to him read the daily news. Young Booker listened to and dreamed. Each morning at dawn, Booker rose and hurried to work. He shoveled, hauled, and packed, and then raced to a school for Negroes. In a tiny, crowded room, Booker studied his lessons. A, an apple. B, a bird. Booker listened, learned, and dreamed, but he wanted more. What do you think he wants next? What do you think he's dreaming of? And I don't know where the 50 cents is going to come in yet. I can feel where his dreams are coming through in the story. I think he wants more education is my prediction, because he's so excited about learning, but I'm wondering what's next. As a teenager, he heard talk of a wonderful school called Hampton Institute. Negroes could study writing there, along with farming, science, and many other things. And they could read all the books they wanted. Booker listened and dreamed. He had no idea where Hampton was or how he was going to reach it. He just knew that he had to get there. Okay, I hear his next dream, right? He wants to go to this institute, and he's going to make it happen, I bet. For a year and a half, Booker worked and saved, dreaming of school all the while. He still had very little money and only a few tattered threads to wear. Tattered threads, that means his clothes are really old and worn. His friends and family didn't have much, a nickel, a quarter, a handkerchief, but they gave them what they had. His older neighbors had spent most of their days in slavery. They told young Booker that they never imagined one of their own going off to boarding school. Booker listened and carried their dreams with him. He walked most of the 500 miles to Hampton Institute. My friends, can you imagine that, walking 500 miles? That'd be like covering the state of Colorado, right? Walking across that, that's amazing. It was a journey of many days through the mountains of Virginia to reach the sea. The wind nipped at his weary bones and the hard ground made his feet ache, but he walked on. Wow, he is really motivated to accomplish this dream, right? Walking 500 miles through the mountains, that's amazing to me. His money had run out by the time he reached Richmond, about 82 miles from Hampton. He was so tired and hungry that he could barely take another step. The big city seemed scary and confusing. So many shadows and not a friend in sight. That is just so hard for me to imagine. I can't even find a connection, I don't think, to say having to walk that far, be out of money, be scared and alone, but still fighting for a dream. It's pretty amazing. Without a single penny in his pocket, Booker walked the streets until after midnight. As he stared at food stands piled high with fried chicken and sweet-smelling fruit pies that made his mouth water, his empty stomach rumbled as loud as approaching thunder. what he wouldn't give for a bite of bread or a sip of milk. Trudging beneath the bleak skies and bitter cold, he could have given up. Then he imagined the library at Hampton, magic and mystery lining its shelves. From deep inside, he heard a voice urging him to press on. He listened and dreamed. He is really motivated by all those books, isn't he? That's pretty amazing. I think it's interesting how the author too talks about how hungry he is. His stomach is rumbling like thunder and the skies are bleak and bitter. The words that the author is using really describes just how hard this was at this time for Booker. He found work unloading a ship and earned enough to buy breakfast. The men grunted and sang as they packed, pulled, and hauled. Their voices reminded Booker of his days in the salt mine, of the friends and family he'd left far behind. He toted, lifted, and stacked until his back hurt and his thin clothes grew damp with sweat. Days passed. Little by little, he saved enough to finish his journey. That sounds like really hard work that he's putting in to earn just a little bit of money. Oh, look at this picture. Can you tell? What can you infer that I'm going to tell you or read to you? I think Booker looks so happy that he must have made it. He just looks so relieved. When he reached Hampton at last, the sight of the large brick building filled his insides with light. With 50 cents in his pocket, and a dream in his soul, Booker felt the magic welcome him in. Now I know. I was wondering, right, about the title, 50 Cents in a Dream, and now I know he had 50 cents in his pocket and the dream in his soul. So cool. What a way to really describe what that was like for him. The cost of school was $70 a year, far more than 50 cents. Booker paid his way by working as a janitor. Once again, he rose at first light, sweeping, cleaning, and hauling before heading to class. Still, he did not earn enough, but his hard work inspired others to help him. And Booker carried their dreams with him. Never before had he eaten regular meals or slept in a bed between two sheets. Life at Hampton was all he wanted and more. It's exciting that his dream is really everything he wanted. You know, when you think of that thing you really want and then it turns out to be so amazing. Can you see how the author has drawn with the light? It just seems so encouraging. For Booker, his teachers were the greatest marvels of all. Now, we all know that's true. Our teachers are the greatest around. They were smart and kind, and they taught their students to share with others the wisdom that they had gained. Maybe some students would go on to build schools of their own. What a great lesson, right? Whatever you learn, you should teach to others. Booker had come a long way from A, an apple, B, a bird. But even after 500 miles and a dream that came true, Booker's journey was just beginning. Sitting at his desk with a stack of books beside him, he listened and dreamed. Now, in my mind, I'm thinking, how is his journey just beginning in his dreams? Because look what he's already accomplished. But here's what I love, that the author ends the story that way, letting us know that things are just coming. But then, as in a lot of nonfiction, we get a little bit more information. So I want to tell you a little bit more about Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington went on to graduate with honors from Hampton Institute in 1875 before becoming a national leader and one of the best-known African Americans of his time. Today, he is remembered as the founder of Tuskegee Institute, which has become a celebrated university. At the time of his death, the campus consisted of over 100 buildings, more than 1,500 students, and an endowment, that means like the amount of money that they have, of nearly $2 million. He learned not only to read books, but also to write them. Of his 14 books, the best known is his second memoir, Up from Slavery. Isn't that an amazing story, don't you think? Now, if you would like to look at this book again, we have it here in the library at El Dorado, okay? You can ask Mrs. Smith how to find it, or if you know where the biographies are, it's under Washington, 92 Washington. I think this is an amazing story, really about his dream and how hard he worked to get there. And I would love to hear what you think about this story as well and how it connects to our other stories this week. I can't wait to share our next book with you and to hear what you're thinking of all the read alouds. Have a great day.